All right, well, welcome everyone to Succeed with LEED, Renovations and Improvements. We're going to be talking about improvements to our existing housing stock, single family, multifamily, mixed use, and how we can use the LEED program to guide us and hopefully, maybe ideally, even certify it to verify that it was done correctly. Before we get started, we need to say a huge thanks to our platinum level renewing sponsor of this year, Rheem. When it comes to renovations, Rheem makes a new 120 volt water heater. So this is basically plug and play. You can swap out that old methane or propane gas water heater and plug in this 120 volt heat pump water heater with efficiencies nearing 400%, all electric, no worries about emissions or off gassing. I've personally been using their Gen 3 model now in my home renovation. So it's got a little more features than this. It takes a little more power, but I only use the heat pump mode. And my mother just personally swapped out her gas water heater for one of these last year, got the Inflation Reduction Act tax credit for it. And it's been working great for her for the last year as well. So we're really doing this. And so this is something you can use to help improve your renovation projects. All right, this session is brought to you by the Green Home Institute. The Green Home Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation of the construction of the places we live. We have a small team. We have our executive director, Jose Reyna, and then we have our program manager, Eliza Searles, who's going to be talking to you a little bit later about certification services at the end. And then I today am usually your moderator, but today I'll also be your main presenter. My name's Brett Little. I am the education manager here at the Green Home Institute. As always, our courses are approved for multiple continuing education units. This one is approved for LEED accredited professional in homes, as well as our certified green home professional designation in all 5 pillars of green. AIA Health, Welfare, and Safety make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. And Passive House, make sure to look for the FIAS 5-digit code within your certificate, or will be sent to you upon us receiving the code. So the Succeed with LEED series is a series we've been doing that we're just starting. This is our second one of the session. And this one, again, is going to be focused on our existing housing stock, multifamily and single family, and transforming it. Previously, we had done one focused on electrification, so you can check that out. And then also we have upcoming ones that we're putting together on water conservation, ventilation, durability in the shower and tub surround, energy ratings and Energy Star, flood avoidance and mitigation. And honestly, we want to hear from you, like in the survey, when you fill it out and in the chat, like what aspects of LEED do you want us to talk about that you don't understand for your residential housing, single family, multifamily projects that we can, go into much more detail on and help you, make sense of the program and, make sense of achieving sustainability in our housing stock. Here is a whole list of links that I will be referencing throughout the session, which bring you into additional resources, especially link number 6. That brings you to all of our LEED documentation resources that are online and available for anyone using it to help you guide you on a LEED project. Now, in order to get a full understanding of the LEED for Homes, you may consider taking our LEED for Homes training, which includes prep for becoming a LEED accredited professional. This will help you navigate your project and gain an extra point in the LEED rating system. This is not required, but it's highly recommended before taking any of our Succeed with LEED trainings. But again, don't leave if you haven't taken it. Please stay. You'll still learn something. So you can learn more about that at our website and in the handout under the Understanding LEED for Homes accredited professional training. We also have a 1-hour introduction to just the general concepts of LEED for Homes, which we'll go over quite a bit of them here today, but we're going to focus on how they relate to the existing housing stock sector. Now, in the past, LEED was very difficult to achieve in existing homes because it required a full gut renovation. with drywall being torn out and exposed bathrooms fully gutted, HVAC systems needing to be fully replaced. However, this is not necessarily the case anymore. LEED now requires the home or building be brought up to today's energy, health, and material standards to achieve certification. The program takes a slightly more if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. In some cases, the less you do, the more you score in your LEED rating system, except for fixing durability issues and improving energy efficiency. There are likely 10 out of 40 points available to certify just by renovating an existing home. When it comes to existing multifamily buildings, there are even more exceptions. And there is the LEED Operations and Maintenance Program, or LEED O&M, which instead focuses on sustainable metrics and outcomes, such as reduced carbon through utility reduction data review, reduced water usage, and improved air quality metrics based on actually sampling the air within your project. Ultimately, we feel that the Green Star Home certification that we offer is still more appropriate for existing housing, and the Enterprise Green program is more appropriate for existing multifamily tax credit projects. But LEED is still very possible, and we will discuss these other programs briefly later on. So let's first do a real high-level overview of the top 10 main tips to meeting LEED for existing homes. Let's quickly dive into each one and then expand upon it. First, you need to meet the Energy Star Homes requirement, mostly, but only when planning changes to the envelope mechanical appliances, energy rating of 85 or lower, no ductwork and pan joists, reviewing if your shower and tub surround is moisture resistant, fixing durability and bulk water entry issues. HVAC systems need to be commissioned and need to be right-sized, may be improved. Existing materials that are reused, refurbished benefit the project. Water heaters, furnaces, and fireplaces need to be safe from exposing your occupants to combustion. You need to determine existing water flow rates and landscaping opportunities, and determine the benefits of the existing location of where the project is already at. For this Succeed with LEED session, here are all the prerequisites and credit categories we will focus on, with the ones in green being our main focus, which is EA, Energy and Atmosphere Minimum Energy Performance, MR Durability, MR Environmentally Preferred Products, EQ Ventilation, EQ Compartmentalization. Those will be the 5 key ones we'll focus on today, but also reference some of these other ones. Now, it's important to know that renovations do not work well under the traditional LEED version 4 for 1 to 4 building, 1 to 4 unit buildings or townhomes. Instead, use version 4.1 residential, and for multifamily, you need to use the version 4.1 credit swaps under V4 in the US and Canada. But if you're calling in from outside of the US and Canada, you get to use the full-blown version 4.1 multifamily project. We don't get to use it in the States, and the Canadians don't get it either for now. That will change. For buildings not planning major multifamily upgrade, consider using the LEED Operations and Maintenance Program, which focuses more on performance outcomes such as carbon emissions, water use reduction, and other sustainability metrics, rather than mechanical and shell improvements. However, to get to any of those O&M outcomes, you may need to make all the upgrades that are already called for in the LEED for Homes program. It may be impossible to achieve those results by not actually doing the things that LEED for Homes calls for. So this session will focus more on LEED for Homes, and we will cover LEED O&M in another series, but reference it throughout. At this time, we do not know what is going on with LEED version 5, but no doubt, at least for homes anyway, but no doubt this information will help you also be able to achieve that as well. Now, the first part of any new LEED project, whether new construction or renovation, is to assemble your integrated project team and complete the required LEED preliminary rating. Planning for LEED home renovation should include an energy rater, a LEED green rater, a home inspector, and or a professional builder to inspect the building or home. You may also want to include a mechanical contractor to give feedback on new or existing HVAC systems. And you'll probably want to have an architect on your team if you plan to do a major redesign or an addition. And you might want a landscape architect on your team if you're doing a big outdoor planning or redesign. While this is a great practice, engaging 3 diverse practitioners is also a way to earn a LEED point in the section. At the very least, minor renovations should include a general contractor and a mechanical contractor and the energy rater or your building science professional. And major gut renovations or additions should include design or architecture. Sometimes these professionals may be ideally the same person, all in one, such as raters and inspectors, home inspectors being the same. These individual skills are all determining what shape the home, these skill sets will help you determine what shape the home is in and what will need to be done to achieve LEED certification. As we go through this course, we will discuss systems where each professional comes in and how they can engage early in the project to help you succeed with LEED. If you can connect with the city or municipality or previous builder and get your existing plans and drawings for the home, this will help give you some clues on what your home or multifamily building might need to achieve to be successful during the renovation project, help you kind of see behind the walls without having to tear them out. Now, if you or a project owner is already planning a major gut renovation, doing this on-site review with a rater may not be necessary, or a home inspector, because the existing structure is going to be torn out and replaced, starting nearly from a blank slate. However, existing homes not planning a full gut rehab can benefit and can certify. For a major gut rehab, consider hiring a designer or architect instead of the rater, at the beginning anyway. Upon reviewing the structure and systems, these professionals may determine that a total gut is required, or to make the home safer and healthier and energy efficient and qualify for LEED. This process will determine whether you need to deconstruct the entire building and just go ahead and build a brand new LEED home. Sometimes that's just what you have to do. Each home is case by case and really depends on the team you assemble, the local laws, and your appetite for renovating versus building new. Now, the Energy Stars Homes program is an ideal goal for all major renovation projects to strive for. But it can be very difficult to meet if there is no plan or budget to change certain home features. Reviewing the Energy Star thermal enclosure checklist, this is provided to you in your handout and will give you more detail on each of these items. It's also worth noting Energy Star is also worth up to $2,500 under the Inflation Reduction Act in tax credits, 45L, for achievements on properties, even existing ones. But the properties have to be used for renting, leasing, or being sold. It can't be your own personal home. And this is the cornerstone to getting the $5,000 Zero Energy Ready certification, Inflation Reduction Act rebate, which also helps achieve Passive House and score the bulk of all of your energy and air quality points within LEED. So let's go over some of the exceptions granted under the Energy Star program and LEED, so that you don't have to be using within existing housing stock. Now, the fully aligned air barrier is required, except for existing sill top plates of the concrete are not required to be placed on a foam gasket. Either way, doing a fully aligned air barrier will be challenging for some existing homes, especially depending on how old they are. There is good guidance from our friends over at Pacific Northwest Laboratories, PNNL. There's a link to that in your resource handout on how to identify and achieve meeting all of these air barriers. To improve the air barrier for an existing home, you're likely looking at air sealing the attic, the rim band joists, and if you're replacing siding, the exterior walls and window air barriers can be updated. There's also other types of technology we'll discuss later for air barriers. So learn more over at the PNNL link we gave you on that. For multifamily and attached row housing, townhomes, in LEED, it is required to compartmentalize the units from each other to protect the health of the tenants. And an energy rater can complete the blower door test to determine how tight the units are and where the opportunities are needed to improve. This should also be done on single-family housing. They're not exempt from this. As part of the initial energy rating index or HERS index assessment, which means ensuring reduced air transfer to the exterior and to the interior units. Single-family homes must achieve air leakage called air changes per hour, or ACH, at 50 pascals of no more than 3. Typically on new construction, this requires the units to be very tight. On multifamily at 0.3 CFM per square foot of enclosure, the walls is what we're looking at. And this again is identified with that blower door test. For renovations, either under version 4.1 or the credit swap under version 4 multifamily, these allow you to only need a 0.5 CFM per square foot of enclosure. So 0.3 is required for multifamily, 0.5 for new construction, 0.5 is all you need for renovation, but 3 air changes per hour is required under the Energy Star program, no matter what. So it's different types of measurements you'll get working with your energy rater. So what does this mean in practice? This means that your caulking and air sealing walls, electric outlets, you might want to use spray foam technology to make the units even super tight. Sealing up the doors, the undercuts, gasketing those, and gasketing the windows as well. Renovation projects that retain their existing envelope, again, have to be 0.5 CFM per square foot or 2.54 liters per square enclosure meter of the space. Here's a video of a LEED project in the pre-drywall or mid-construction phase using an automatic sealant to blow in and hit their desired air leakage target. This was on a new construction home during mid-construction, but this can be used on an existing home as long as turning the surfaces are moved out of and covered, and people are evacuated out of the house and nothing gets anything on it. This will fill the gaps and cracks and help you hit your needed air leakage target. Continuing on with the Energy Star exemptions, high performance fenestrations such as lower U value windows and doors are not required for existing windows, and doors are not required to be replaced. High performance insulation with better R value is not required for existing walls that aren't being impacted by the renovation. Tearing out walls can be very expensive. Attic insulation at the intersection of the existing roof and existing exterior walls does not have to meet the R value requirements of Energy Star. Advanced framing is not required on the existing wall assemblies. Slab insulation, while strongly encouraged by LEED, is not required to meet or exceed the 2009 IECC levels unless, the slab is being replaced. Now, the next barrier is durability or water intrusion management of the building envelope, interior and behind the shower and tub surround. The water management document is attached and well, it's within the all the LEED documents we shared with you in the number 6 on the resource list we gave you. If you go into those LEED documents, look at all the Energy Star documents in there, you'll find the water management checklist along with those Energy Star documents. These will all need to be reviewed by your construction management and design team and incorporated into your plans and specifications, and then signed off at the end of the project. Here, every home will be different as to how much effort, cost, and time it will take to address these durability management issues. By repairing these issues, you can increase the home's life, reduce rot, improve health by removing mold and mildew risk. Fixing some of these items can go hand in hand with the Energy Star thermal enclosure opportunities by having a more energy efficient system. For older housing stock, the biggest opportunity in this section for LEED for homes is ensuring that exterior water management, aka durability or bulk water entry items, are in really good shape. This is done through an assessment of the property, typically done by a home inspector or general contractor to determine the efficiencies in the roof, walls, windows, or slab that may cause some water entry. Gutters may be beneficial, maybe a financial deterrent to your project if they're not in your budget. But if you have an engineer report that verifies that the local home or area has well-draining sandy soils, you may be able to opt out of the requirements to do the gutters. Slab on grade homes or crawl spaces can also ignore these gutter systems. Here's an example of what needs to be done to the gutters when you add them. They cannot just dump water at the foundation, as this will cause moisture and water humidity issues. They should be draining away from the foundation down a slope. Check your existing sump pump, and if it's covered in gas, is it covered with a gasket, and does it have mechanical fasteners sealing it? If not, this is an opportunity for both radon and moisture to enter into the home. This is required to mechanically seal it and gasket it, and also if you have a high performance HVAC system and water heater, you might be dumping condensate down here, further exacerbating the moisture problem that would otherwise be solved by sealing it and redirecting the water. You're not required in LEED to have an actual sump pump pit or pump at all, but the pit that does exist, if it's there, must be sealed. Now, grading the ground away from the home may be needed to ensure water does not go back up into the home. This is especially required for homes with basements. You may need a professional to check the grade of the home and see if your existing grade needs to be regraded or to repair any kind of negative grades. Specifically, here are some items that can be ignored on that water management checklist when considering the materials and resources durability management requirement for LEED under MR. A capillary break under the existing slab is not required unless there are visible signs of moisture and damage on the slab floor. So make sure that's part of the home inspection process. Exterior below grade walls are not required to be damp proofed on the exterior surface unless there is visible signs, again, of moisture damage on the interior wall. So hopefully you're getting a theme here. You're having that inspector review for those signs of damage. Drain tiles surrounded with clean gravel and fabric filter are not required for existing slabs unless there are visible signs, again, of that moisture and water damage to the slab floor. Water management wall and roof assemblies are not required for existing walls or roofing unless there are signs of moisture damage and water entry in those places. All right, so I caught up with our longtime LEED Green Rater and in-house quality assurance director, Lorene Blissard, to help guide us through some more specific examples of some of her projects she's managed on housing repairs to the walls and roof. So let's take a listen to Lorene here to help us go through some of these opportunities.
If you have windows that are existing, and this could possibly happen in two ways. So in the picture of the home I showed you, that mid-century home, some of those picture windows are rather large. They could be like 6 feet by 8 feet, next to impossible to replace. Or the existing home may have replaced the windows like 5 years ago or whatever it may be. As long as they're not being touched, they don't have to comply. But when you do your energy model, you'll have to compensate for that. Also, in existing walls that aren't impacted by the renovation, so in this case, the client was able to access and change out the windows, but couldn't access the insulation in the wall. But we were able to do some investigative work and were able to ascertain they were 2x4 walls with bad insulation. Also, sometimes slabs aren't touched at all. It is strongly encouraged if you're going to be doing any kind of slab work, that you do insulation and make sure that you meet or exceed the 2009 IECC levels. However, that may not always present as an option. Also, attic insulation at the intersection of an existing roof and existing exterior walls does not have to meet R value requirements. And sometimes it's actually difficult. In this home, it's an existing 2x4 wall. So you'll see there on the right-hand side, compressed insulation makes a weak link in the thermal barrier. It's next to impossible to meet the requirements. So that's why this exemption is presented. However, this client chose to do spray foam, which actually brought it up closer to the IECC level. I'm not advocating for that particular material, but you have to think outside of the box when you're doing a gut rehab or any kind of substantial rehab. And then advanced framing is not required on existing frame walls. I mean, the walls are already there. There isn't really much that you can do about it. But just keep in mind that in V41, you may not be able to get the material efficiency framing credits. You would be able to get the reuse credits, especially if you're not really doing much in terms of framing. But the framing that you are doing, you can just look at that as a compartmentalized approach. So, for instance, in this home, they redid the framing down in the basement. If they had chose to go more than 16 inches on center, I would have only had to look at the interior framing of just this portion. I didn't have to look at any of the interior framing elsewhere in the house. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your calculations, if that's an approach that you're considering for credit. And then existing sill plates aren't necessarily required to be on a foam gasket. It's a little bit hard to install a foam gasket after the wall's in place. But just keep in mind if there's any additions that are built that they would still need to comply. Okay, water management requirements. So a capillary break under an existing slab is not required. However, if you're seeing moisture damage, and this is an example of moisture damage, and one of the reasons, of course, why it's required in new construction is that concrete's naturally porous. So it has a tendency to pull, by capillary action, any kind of moisture that's either in the slab or foundation, which leads me to my next slide. Oh, before I jump in there. If you are doing a renovation and you're not touching the slab, just keep in mind that you'll have to do a little bit different approach in meeting the prerequisite for radon. So you'll have to do testing. For the project that I was working on, they had actually installed an active radon system tied into the drain tiles and the sump pump.
The contract is union.
I'm sorry, is someone asking a question? No? Okay. Okay, so that's how you would comply. A little bit different approach with radon and slabs. So exterior below grade walls would typically be damp proofed in new construction. However, there is the potential that there may be problems. If there is visible sign of moisture damage, then the project team needs to include some kind of damp proofing. Drain tiles, if you're not familiar with what a drain tile is, but it typically happens at the footing. A little bit difficult to install these after the fact, but if a project does want to do LEED and they are having these kinds of issues, then they need to be addressed. And then water management, water-managed wall and roof assemblies. I just put this example where the wall cladding didn't have the proper flashing. So these are some of the issues that could happen. And if you have batt insulation, you may not necessarily see that there's a problem. So just some things to keep in mind as you're doing gut rehabs or substantial renovations. Okay, which leads us to UA compliance. I actually ran into this problem with a gut rehab. So I ran a example Energy Star model on that project because they didn't change the slab, they didn't change the windows. And what will happen is you may get this kickback that says that the project doesn't meet the UA requirements or the prescriptive requirements. Well, that makes sense because there are some aspects of the home that you're not touching.
For existing housing, and this is a little quiz, and I don't have the actual pop-up for you, unfortunately, so you're just going to have to put it into the chat. But in the chat the question is, can you certify to LEED if the Energy Star compliance pathway shows that it is not met? So the answers are 1, 2, or 3, I guess, in this case. Number 1, yes, you can certify to LEED. 2, no, you can't certify to LEED. 3, yes, you can certify if you also meet a HERS 85 or lower. Or 4, yes, you can certify if you also meet a HERS 85 or higher. So let's give you all a second to answer that and then go over that answer. So the answer here is 3. And first of all, for those of you who don't know how the HERS rating works, we have a bunch of training and education around that. So you'll want to learn that before you even start getting into LEED. But to keep it short, the lower the better on a HERS rating. 100 is kind of like your national built to code home if the national code was averaged, but we know it's different for every state. And 0 is net 0. So lower is better. So that's the first part. The second part is, yes, LEED has put together a addendum, a waiver, if you will, a pathway for renovations where you can certify with 85 or lower, and you don't need to meet the Energy Star compliance pathway if you can also meet that requirement on the existing homes. All right. So that's energy. Environmental quality or EQ, garage pollution protection can also be a barrier for existing homes. Not gutting out the space between the home and the garage is a huge cost and expense. You also need to make sure all air handling equipment that might already be in the garage is either removed from the garage and the ductwork is outside of the fire rated envelope of the garage, so it's not bringing in car exhaust or other pollution that spills in the garage. Tightly seal shared between the surfaces of the garage and conditioned spaces, including all the following. In conditioned spaces above, you need to seal all penetrations and all connecting floors, ceiling, joist, bays. In conditioned spaces next to the garage, weather strip all doors, install carbon monoxide detectors, and seal up the connections with the garage, seal all penetrations, seal all cracks at the base of the wall. Ideally, you can get an extra LEED point by either converting your garage to living space or detaching your garage or not having a garage at all. You get a bonus point for that. The next biggest barrier to achieving LEED in older homes is an energy efficient, properly functioning, and commissioned HVAC and mechanical system. This is listed under the LEED Energy and Atmosphere Minimum Energy Performance and V4.1 Multifamily Fundamental Systems Testing and Verification. This includes proper sizing, good static pressure with proper functions, a MERV 8 or higher filtration, and well-sealed design ductwork to deliver air properly. If you have an old furnace or boiler that is not sealed combustion and is naturally drafting, think a metal or brick chimney vent, this is absolutely not allowed in any version of LEED and must be replaced with the sealed combustion or ideally heat pump. Having your qualified energy rater who's also trained under the 301 standard can come, and that's basically nerd speak or tech speak for HVAC who's trained, or a rater who's trained in HVAC, but not a degree in it, just a special training for them. They can come in and evaluate your existing system to see if it can be reused or needs to be upgraded as well. You can also work with a certified Energy Star HVAC contractor to complete this too. Typically, a brand new HVAC system that is properly sized and properly installed and commissioned will meet all of these needs. So if you plan on updating your HVAC, this should be an easy requirement to achieve, and a more efficient system will improve your energy rating and LEED energy points. Having the qualified energy rater do the test on the final install could result in an extra 8 points on your energy rating index and improve your LEED energy points as well by 3 to 4. Again, as long as that qualified energy rater is also trained on the HVAC program and implements the HVAC design review and testing protocols. Using R410A or less of a global warming refrigerant potential type also, if you're using it in your AC or your heat pump, gets you an extra bonus point in LEED version 4.1. In the handouts, both system design and commissioning checklists can be found up on that Dropbox file link, item number 6 we shared with you, and are available. So make sure you review those and get those in front of your HVAC contractors. Now, one of the biggest barriers to achieving LEED for homes and older homes is also ensuring no pan ductwork in the floor or wall joists. Ensuring this does not happen improves the energy rating index, or HERS rating. Any existing home that is found to have ductwork panned anywhere on the floors, walls, or attic must have it all removed and reducted. This may require that drywall be torn out and redone, which can also be very costly. This is one of the barriers I ran into in my own home renovation, as 80% of my ducts are buried in the walls and a drywall tear out is not in my budget. Even though fully ducting would likely improve my home comfort and reduce humidity issues, it's just too costly, but maybe someday I'll get to it. Ductwork must also be properly sized using the manual decalculation, and so improperly sized ducts may require them be updated or changed to match the new system and deliver air appropriately on the home. One solution could be to use your existing ductwork for your whole home ventilation system, which complies with the environmental quality ventilation section, which we'll get into in a little bit, and could be worth extra points for the enhanced ventilation credit. While not ideal, existing ductwork can be repurposed for your ventilation system, and you can seek an alternative way to deliver air-conditioned homes. Do note that LEED does not address asbestos on existing homes, but Enterprise Green and our Green Star program do. So before changing ductwork in older homes, check for and ensure asbestos is abated. That won't show up in your project checklist. If the ductwork can be confirmed as not panned in the joist and the sizing works well, then the second problem will be duct leakiness. The ducts will need to be tested by a qualified energy professional or rater to determine duct leakage in compliance with Energy Star duct leakage targets. Usually this test is also done in conjunction with that blower door test we talked about to get something called total duct leakage to the outside. This should be done at the start of the project in the planning stage and must also be done at the final stage for your project LEED submission. If the ducts are too leaky, they need to be sealed with metal duct tape, mastic, or there is now a blow-in agent technology that can blow in from the inside and help you hit your Energy Star targets. Improving your ductwork increases the home comfort, health, and improves your energy scores, which also improves your LEED energy points. Do note that under version 4.1 multifamily swap, case 2, for all other ducted heating and cooling systems, the qualified professional must at least visually verify that all ducts are air sealed and that the duct boots are sealed in the drywall. So this allows you to bypass the testing when and only when in multifamily all of the ductwork is inside the conditioned space. That's the only time you can do that, and it has to be visible and not buried behind the drywall. So if you have multifamily projects that are like that, or you're tearing out the drywall, you can do this, and that will also help reduce any expenses if your rater doesn't carry around duct leakage testing equipment or doesn't charge you for the fees for that, or you're in another country where a lot of times that's harder to access. If you cannot get the ductwork fix within your budget, adding a ductless or ducted mini split may be the solution, which then avoid the need for the ducts and duct leakage testing. Note, if you got a mini split to overcome the ductwork issue and you use ventilation in your ductwork, for example, you should note that mini splits may not resolve humidity issues as well. So there are bonus points under version 4.1 residential for installing products like dehumidification or ventilating dehumidifiers. These will ensure humidity issues that are not resolved by the mini splits keep the humidity issues reduced in these existing homes, which tend to suffer more from humidity issues than new homes. Mike Baker here recently took us on a virtual tour of his LEED renovation project, the Happy Bulu project, where he used a hybrid approach of a ducted and ductless mini split system. He also added a whole home dehumidifier to take care of unresolved humidity issues, which again are very normal with renovations and somewhat normal with the use of mini splits. So you can go and take that tour on that LEED renovation project on one of our websites. Now, unlike the exterior issues, interior issues must also be addressed. And whether or not there is an issue, you have to do it. Now, heading inside, we have multiple water durability problems. So we talked about the exterior and the walls, but let's go inside. And again, this is one of the other largest and biggest barriers to a LEED existing home renovation. It's listed under the materials and resources durability management prereq. This is an issue I personally faced on my home, and it means all bathrooms either have a non-paper face ASTM certified moisture resistant wall backer behind the shower and tub surround, as you see on the photo on the right, or as you see on the photo on the left, a single fiberglass insert that is properly sealed to the wall. But you have to note, you have to look behind that insert and see if there is drywall behind it and whether that drywall is certified or not. Going back to, you want to get the plans and specs of the original project if they even exist anymore. Tearing all this out is a great opportunity to insulate and air seal behind the walls if they're not already air sealed and insulated. And then it's a good opportunity to put the proper moisture resistant backing. However, if you're not planning a bathroom renovation, this could be a costly item to do on your budget. If you are unsure, you'll need to inspect behind the shower and tub surround, and if you see drywall behind it, it is likely not ASTM certified. You would need to get the original building plans to see. Now, getting LEED certification for the project could be difficult if the original work scope or budget did not call for a shower replacement. It may be part of a phased or planned project approach, though. Now, continuing under the materials and resource durability management section here, kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, and spa area must use water-resistant flooring. Looking for carpeting and removing it within all entryways within 3 feet or 900 millimeters of an exterior door accessible from the ground. Using water-resistant flooring, do not install carpet, though carpet tiles may be permitted. Also, under the MR durability management section for LEED, you need to have steel braided hoses on your washers. If the washer has a drain pan, that is fine, but or even preferred, really. But the steel braided hoses, as opposed to a rubber hose, reduce leakage by 90%. So this may be used, and it's much easier and cheaper than installing a drain pan. This is also a great time during the evaluation to check if your washer is Energy Star certified. While not required, it gives you extra points. Also, while you're checking this, make sure your dryer is exhausting properly and it's properly ducted and clean, which is also required for LEED. Or consider switching over to a condensing or heat pump dryer, though not required, could give you extra energy efficiency rating points. The energy rater or qualified energy rater should be performing a leak inspection test on your home, and ignore the timestamp on there. Though it may take around 46 minutes to do that test, so that could be relevant. This is a visual inspection to look for signs of leaks, but also they'll check the water pressure on the hose or other water fixture, and then do a leak test to see what the water pressure changes were. If you are planning a whole plumbing project, the plumber can do a more advanced water pressure test on your system, and this should absolutely be completed after your plumbing has been installed and updated, and may already be part of the plumber's process to verify that it was done right. Now, when you're considering a water heating for your project, you'll be considering 3 aspects all in one for water heating. You'll be looking at durability under the materials and resources, health under environmental quality, combustion venting, and energy and atmosphere under annual energy usage. See the bottom right photo, or actually rather bottom left photo at the water heater. If a water heater is located in or above living space, it must have a drain pan. That's where the materials and resources section for LEED comes in. That needs to be installed and needs to be making sure that the drain pan is actually draining out to a drain. Next, you see the water heater is sealed at the top and not naturally drafting. That means it is ensuring emissions of burning gas are also going outside and not being dumped into the living space. This also boosts the energy efficiency of the water heater, thus boosting your overall annual energy usage of the project. Now, you might also look at the water heater on the right. This is a heat pump and has no emissions, so it meets the EQ, environmental quality combustion requirements, and it will exponentially increase your energy rating points in LEED in most cases and boost your total energy score. So water heater, again, you're looking at it from 3 different views: durability, health, and energy, all in one. Now, all LEED certified homes must have proper ventilation under the environmental quality ventilation section. And you'll work with your qualified energy rater to inspect the existing ventilation systems. This includes testing the kitchen hood ranges, bath fans, and supply fans if they're being used for the whole home ventilation system. The biggest issue will most likely be the kitchen range hood. At the very least, the kitchen range hood must be vented and ducted to the exterior and must pull at least 100 CFM while testing. If this system is not ducted, as many are not, and it's just recirculating, this may require a whole kitchen makeover to place the stove in a location that will allow the kitchen to be vented. Then you will ensure proper flashing and sealing of the vent penetration. The qualified energy rater should test the system to see if you need an updated one. If the system tests over 400 CFM, this would cause a different problem that you need to address, where you need to bring in makeup air to prevent a negative pressure happening in the house. Kitchen ventilation could also instead be taken care of with an energy recovery ventilator that's being supplied through your existing ductwork, like we talked about, as long as it hits 5 air changes per hour within that kitchen space. Now test the bath fans to see if they pull 50 CFM or more. But before you do, just check if it's an Energy Star and meets the quiet rating standards, because even if it pulls 50 CFM or more, if it is not certified, you'll need to update the fans. All fans must also be fully vented outside the house and not into the attic, both kitchen and bath fans. This will need to be part of the mechanical plan. The entire home must comply with the home ventilation standards, and this can be done through constantly running bath fans, supplying air coming into the HVAC, or ideally an energy or heat recovery ventilation system. You need to use the ASHRAE 62.2 2010 for version 4 or 2016 for version 4.1 table to determine the flow rate based on the number of bedrooms and size of the house. We will be doing additional Succeed with LEED education on the ventilation standards, calculations, documentation, and opportunities. Energy recovery ventilators or supply only ventilation systems through the heating and cooling system may also be used for the whole house fresh air supply. Working with your rater and your HVAC to determine which is the best and most cost-effective way to do it. Also note, all ventilation systems must give user control. Often the HVAC and project owners keep the ventilation system controls locked behind the units, and inaccessible. So for LEED, there must be the ability for the homeowners and tenants to be able to turn ventilation systems on or off, and ideally change their flow rates. They must be educated on how and why to do this as well. Now, for multifamily, all common spaces that are conditioned space must have an ASHRAE 62.1 calculation. In other terms, that's just geek speak for airflow in common spaces. And this will ensure the proper ventilation outside of the units in multifamily corridors and shared spaces. The qualified energy rater or mechanical engineer may do this, and ventilation may need to be added and updated in the non-residential spaces. This old brick multifamily building here that we were the LEED provider for achieved LEED Silver, but before they could do that, they realized the hallways were not properly ventilated. And so they had to go back in and add these exhaust fans in the hallways upstairs and downstairs. So you can see where they just punched a hole in the wall and put in an exhaust fan, and we were on our way. Continuing in indoor environmental quality section, EQ, any existing water heaters, furnaces, or fireplaces must be replaced if there's a chance of exposure to combustion. Existing fireplaces that are not sealed can be repaired in some cases. This means they're being sealed and vented and adding makeup air. Otherwise, they need to be replaced with an EPA-approved model or just remove them entirely. Removing fireplaces is usually the safest bet and can reduce air leakage and pest entry. Electric fireplaces are allowed and highly encouraged and don't require all the air makeup ventilation. If you don't have a fireplace to begin with, don't add one to your project. Talk your client out of it. You get extra bonus points for not having one. Again, all electric fire ones also don't count as a fireplace, so you get the bonus point for that as well. So we've been discussing a lot of mandatory things you have to do, but let's start transitioning into some opportunities before we wrap up. Now we want to look at the part of LEED that includes the utility bill savings, which leads to operational carbon reductions. For projects that are 4 stories or lower, including single family or mid to high-rise buildings using the Energy Star multifamily program, you will use the Energy Rating Index, or ERI, or HERS, through the lens of the LEED Energy and Atmosphere Minimum Energy Performance. For multifamily, this is usually done with a sample set of units using the worst case units. In this case, your target, if you remember, is that HERS 85 or lower compared to a traditional target on new construction of 70 or lower. So you have the qualified energy rater audit the project before your work begins. They will tell you your current score of the project and help you put a plan together to improve it. The rating is done by evaluating all the existing systems in the home: air, sealing, insulation, HVAC, water heating, windows, lighting, and appliances. It is not in any way associated with any actual utility data or utility bills. This is where the LEED operation and maintenance or multifamily program comes in. That is related to existing utility data. So if you want to use that program to improve your building, you can insert a year's worth of utility data into the Energy Star Portfolio Manager program and see how efficient you are for your building and how on track you are to LEED. Achieving an improved energy rating index to score more points in LEED can be done by completing a preliminary energy model and an existing home incorporating the proposed plans and specifications on what you want to do. Once you start to review and include the repair or upgrade plans for the thermal envelope, and once you start doing all of those other items I said you had to do, fixing the air barrier, doing the bulk water management, adding in the ventilation, completing the Energy Star thermal enclosure checklist, reviewing water management issues, fixing the shower and tub surround, all of these things will contribute to a more well air sealed home, which will ultimately improve your final energy rating index and adding to your overall LEED energy bonus points. Now, one of the biggest opportunities for LEED for homes renovations is the materials and resource section under the environmentally preferred products EPP section. What this means essentially is when you have existing material components of a home or multifamily development that are either reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, or quite frankly, not touched at all, points can be attained automatically, saving on cost, reducing embodied carbon, versus buying new products. Now, under the MR environmentally preferred product sections, you can gain up to 6 points and a bonus point for maintaining these materials. And these materials in reference are including but not limited to framing, sheathing, drywall, aggregate, insulation, flooring, siding, roofing, trim, decking, windows, counters, and cabinets. The less invasive the renovation is, the more likely you'll retain these materials, scoring maximum LEED points in this section, again, reducing embodied carbon and saving money. Also, the less you tear out or rebuild, the less waste the project will generate, and that is easier to score on potential construction waste points. Now, it's a misnomer about LEED. You don't need to recycle anything throughout construction to get LEED certified. You get bonus points. It is not required. Windows in existing homes should be given special consideration by reusing the existing windows. You get an extra LEED point, and typically this reduces costs significantly. Existing windows can be repaired, reputtied, and storm windows can make them more energy efficient, and by adding them on the outside or the inside of storm windows, reduce air leakage and improve your energy score. Do note that LEED does not address lead on existing homes, but the Enterprise Green program and our Green Star program do account for lead and needing to be addressed. Before changing windows or even adding them or altering them in any home that was built before 1978, especially one, please, with children coming into it, check for a lead, abate the lead, have a lead plan. You won't find it in LEED, unfortunately, but these other programs do offer it. Now, while there are no requirements to improve water efficiency of your project, having more water efficient features reduces utility costs and scores you additional points in LEED to help you certify. You may find that what is already in the home scores enough water points and you don't have to do anything. During the initial inspection of the home, review the flow rates of all the water using devices. In LEED, there is a prescriptive and performance route. If you are able to identify the existing fixtures are WaterSense certified or appliances are Energy Star certified, like a clothes washer, you can get points. But likely what you need to do to determine the flow rates of the water efficiency of the appliances, you'll need to know what those actual rates are by looking at the labels on them or testing them. So you can't take the prescriptive route for the water efficiency section if you can't prove that the devices are WaterSense certified. We have an additional Succeed with LEED session on all the water efficiency requirements and how to determine them for new or existing buildings. You can test the flow rate of the showers and aerators if the labels are scratched off by taking so there's some sound probably, by taking measuring the flow for 10 seconds and multiplying it to get up to 6 gallons per minute, or multiplying it by 6 to get your gallons per minute. You'll need this information for your LEED water budget checklist. You can also review the EPA Outdoor Water Sense checklist and watch our Outdoor Water EPA webinar we've done to determine how water efficient your outdoor water usage is. In short, this is done by measuring the site and determining the ratio of grass versus native adaptive trees and plants and bushes, as well as considering non-water using outdoor spaces. Consider hiring an EPA certified landscape expert to assist you. From there, you can determine the existing home's water performance and whether you need to improve it to achieve your score. Mike Baker here again from the Happy Bulo project will walk you through this in our session we did with him. His method was to restore the invasive grasses in his yard and look at the stormwater mitigation practices by doing some testing. And he had installed thousands of native plants, boosting his water points and helping with his stormwater mitigation in LEED at the same time. So in summary, increasing your water efficiency points is not required. It's the easiest way to score points in LEED for homes, especially if you have older fixtures that you already plan to change. So just real quick, I am going to let you know it is now 1 o'clock. We have a few more things to go over. So if you want to stick around and continue the conversation and get into Q&A, I am happy to start answering some of your questions if you want to stick around. But if you have to go and want to catch anything you missed, this session is being recorded. And so you can watch this. You can catch up on anything you missed. You can share it, send it out. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel. Also, for those of you looking for your continuing education units, take the quiz with an 80% passing rate. Check your spam for certs at gutenbergcerts.com. You'll receive your certificate. Take the survey that pops up here, especially if you need your AIA CUs, but we want to hear back from you. So make sure to take that survey. And again, before we wrap up, just real quick, a huge thanks to our board of directors, our volunteers, our executive director, Jose Reyna. I think we hit 350 members this week. So thanks to all of you who are members and all of their support, and our top tier sponsors who are making products that help you renovate homes to LEED standards such as REEB, Build Equinox, Panasonic, and all of them, just to name a few. Before we jump into wrapping up the session and getting into some of those questions, I do have with us here today our program manager, Eliza Searles. And if you're planning on potentially starting a project, she can give you some advice and guidance and will ultimately be your connection. So Eliza, thanks for joining us, and maybe catch us up on where people can go to learn more about starting a project.
Hi, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what our role is as a residential provider if you're doing one of these LEED renovation projects. The Green Home Institute is a LEED residential provider, and that's a key and required part of the verification team for all LEED residential projects. The role of a provider is to provide quality oversight over a network of green raters and their projects. Now, the green raters are another essential part of the verification team. They are the professionals in the field. They have direct communication with the project teams, and they are out there conducting field verification. Providers are a technical resource for these green raters and sort of a liaison between these professionals and their work in the field and GBCI. GBCI is the certification body for LEED projects. And finally, qualified energy professionals must also be hired for all LEED residential projects. This is a critical role for both planning for energy efficiency and for confirming performance results. So as you can tell, the LEED certification process can seem a little complex to those who don't work with it on a day-to-day basis. And if you're interested in certification for your project, you can use the project inquiry link that I will post in the chat, or you can just email me directly as well if you have questions. I will also post my email address in the chat box.
All right, thank you, Eliza. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up here with a couple things here real quick, and then dive into Q&A and discussion. One of the final notes I wanted to leave you all on was the location and transportation section and how you want to approach it from a existing home. You may benefit from your existing location, or your existing location of your project may hinder you. And that's just really out of your control, right? I mean, ultimately, the project is where it is. It's with new construction, you kind of get to some extent pick. With a renovation, you're locked in. So you can look for benefits such as, well, first of all, are you in a 100-year floodplain? That might be something you want to address, especially as floods get worse and worse. There's some standards to address for floodplaining, but there are also some set-asides for renovation projects occurring in the 100-year floodplain. But even though LEED is giving you some exemptions there, you might want to, especially with things getting worse these days, I wouldn't ignore the floodplains, and you might want to think through those as well. So we'll be doing some further sessions on LEED and flooding. You automatically get 4 points just for having previously developed lot. For multi-family and townhomes, you get more points for having units per acre automatically. Look at the project's walk score. This will help you determine how many location and transportation points are available for the project based on the unique community resources around: grocery stores, coffee shops, banks, restaurants, services. You can look for you get points for having bus stops, bus lines, other alternative transportation methods, bike lanes, even the sidewalks you get points for, and local parks. And this is also a great time for advocacy. So what I mean by that is, let's say you could get, if you had just 5 more bus routes that came to your development, right, which would really help people, especially if they rely on the busing system. Okay, so you go and lobby the city and you say, hey, bring in some more bus stops to this area, it'll help my tenants. And if the city likes LEED and cares about LEED, you could also say, hey, this will get us an extra LEED point in our project. That wouldn't be what you would lead with, but, or hey, can we get a bike lane built on our street? It'll help our tenants, and it will give us an extra LEED point with our project. So everything is not out of your control. You do have the advocacy approach. We've seen it happen to some success, to other not successes, to delayed success. But that's the conversation you have there, is working with your local municipality to expand these connectivity resources, which would also benefit your project for LEED as well. Well, and it's also worth noting that rural projects don't get these points, but can certainly still score high in LEED by achieving points in other areas. The other thing you might want to consider is taking some of our larger, older housing stock and or our existing homes with lots of land and splitting them up into more units, turning single family into multifamily, or generating what we call accessory dwelling units. So those accessory dwelling units could be in a basement or an attic, and those increase your site density, which could also increase your LEED score, or you put an ADU outside of it. Again, that can all increase points, and there are some unique approaches to achieving the ADUs as well. And again, that's another policy and advocacy piece where if your local municipality or city or state opposes ADUs, you might have to do some advocacy there to do something like that, and parking and all of those other items. So ultimately, like I said, LEED in some cases may not be the best solution for your residential renovation or home upgrade project. The Green Home Institute Green Star certification, while it has less market recognition, has many benefits that LEED does not. One of these include provisions for reviewing and abating environmental health hazards like lead and asbestos and radon, which are either absent from LEED, or LEED only requires radon be addressed in EPA Zone 1, but we know radon can actually happen anywhere, and we've tested it even in zones where EPA says it shouldn't be a problem. And so we had one project, note they did a whole renovation project, ran into some asbestos, and they were like, geez, I wish LEED would have brought something up about this. And it was kind of silent on it, that they might have, addressed that in their project if it was a requirement to do that on the existing homes. Now, besides the environmental health hazards, other benefits of Green Star include the use of the DOE's home energy score, which is much more commonplace for existing single family and is soon to be extended to multifamily than the HERS index rating or the energy index rating. It's less invasive, less costly, might be tied into some Inflation Reduction Act resources as well. And for Green Star, we have much less air sealing and insulation, and less much requirements for invasive work behind the walls for duct work and the shower and tub surround. Those come into play at higher levels of Green Star for sure, but at the lower levels, you can still certify without having to do all that work. So in summary, if LEED does not work, consider checking out Green Star for your residential home project, or use them both in tandem, and you might be able to get good ideas from both and, determine, ultimately which one you want to certify under. So that is it for this particular session. I have a little bit of time here to take any questions if we have any. And so just getting into them right now, can you tell me where I can purchase a gallon measuring container? Yeah, I'm not quite sure if you have a more specific question there, but what I can say is if you're trying to do your own water flow testing as a rater or helping somebody, there are you can use like just a little measuring cup that you would use for cooking to test the kitchen faucet and to test the bathroom aerator. For the shower, you're going to need a large bucket, and you could probably go online on Amazon or whatever, or Home Depot or wherever, and just type in measuring bucket, and they probably have like a clear bucket with the measuring lines on it. You'll have to do that one for the showers because obviously showers are going to overflow handheld measuring glass, instantly. So that's what I think people are using, to do that. So, do the requirements for non-paper face sheetrock for tubs and surround also apply to ceilings above, not shown on the photos? No, they do not apply to my knowledge specifically right above. Now, of course, the ceiling above is going to have moisture hit it. It's going to have water on it. So in fact, I would highly recommend if you're remodeling the bathroom just to make the entire bathroom moisture resistant, why not? But to my knowledge, it's just the surround. There's also some, I think we had a project that had a resistant paint painted on it that was certified, and they painted that, around the area and on the ceiling and in the whole bathroom, and that worked too. But I have to double check on that. That's just kind of, I couldn't remember if they were approved or not, but either way, it was a certified paint and it worked. So that's something else you might want to look for. Can we pan between the studs or joists simply be replaced by a seal rectangular duct? That's a good question. I will admit that my knowledge of duct repair and rebuilding is very limited. So what I would say, Robert, is if you've got a real project going on, contact Eliza, get in touch with our quality assurance director, and talk specifically on how you want to fix the issue. And I'd love to learn more on what you find out, because I'm always learning too, and want to help educate others if that would be effective. I'm not quite sure on what strategies can be used for the replacement, other than it just simply needs to be replaced in general. So, and there was another question: has the survey pop-up launch? No. So when we close this webinar, the survey will pop up, and also the survey will be sent to you an hour after the webinar. So look for your spam in your inbox. No, it has not popped up yet. So, what is generally involved with sealing a legacy drop-in fireplace? Yeah, that's another one of those areas again where my level of information and knowledge on actually how to repair and seal those fireplaces, and to do them in a way that then qualifies them for the EPA Indoor Air Plus program or the LEED program, how that can be done. What I have seen before is you have sort of that existing nice brick fireplace, right? It's very nice and you want to maintain it. So you sort of kind of tear everything out and you put an insert in, and then that insert typically gets converted over to they bring in the natural gas, it's all sealed up, and then it brings in the makeup air, and then the pipe going up is repaired and vented out, and there's a fan. That's what I think I've seen before. It might also have the ability to have traditional wood fire that can close the doors, but how to go about doing that, I need to learn more and don't know the answer to that one. So thanks for the question though.